ID.
Email ID.
I will send URL support to that. So that
vishalagarwal.advocate.
just a second.
तो WhatsApp पे भेज मेरे को.
WhatsApp पे नहीं, ईमेल पे अगर आएगा ना, जिसके पास ईमेल जाएगी ना, उसको यूजर ने पासवर्ड डालना नहीं पड़ेगा, वो लिंक उस पे
वहीं से आ जाएगा डायरेक्टली.
सिर्फ
अब मैं
पासवर्ड
सबकी
डालना
ईमेल्स
पड़ेगा.
सबके ईमेल्स कहाँ से इकट्ठा करूंगा? रिकॉर्डिंग तो रोक दो अभी.
In this webinar is because Vishalji is our key speaker. So Vishalji will take 15-20 minutes at the beginning to tell us about the topic, etc. And then there will be a question answer session. Anybody who wants to ask any question, he can just send his message in the chat box, and we will read that chat at the end of the Vishalji's session. Or otherwise, after the completion of Vishalji's session, he has to just raise his hand like this. I will just connect him to the Vishalji, so he can ask his question himself. It is this is a very new technology for me also, and you have already seen technical issues, so kindly pardon me for that. But however, in case there is a trouble with regard to listening Vishalji, then you have to just put in your message in the chat box so that I am able to refix that. Now, I know everybody here knows Mr. Agrawal very well, and he was very obliged. I feel obliged that he gave me this opportunity to moderate with him as a key speaker on mortgage. Frankly speaking, I know nothing about mortgage. This topic is so vast and is an essential part of Transfer of Property Act. But being not working on the civil side, not more often in the appeals, it is very difficult for me to understand. The only thing that I know about mortgage is that once a mortgage, always a mortgage. So without wasting any further time, I will like Mr. Agrawal to come and enlighten us about this topic. So Vishalji, you can just start now. Over to you.
Good evening, everyone. Since it's an informal meeting, everyone can address me as Vishal. I'm not Mr. Agrawal, as it is all of them are friends. So as a qua this present webinar, what I thought was I have been attending number of webinars for the last 10 days or 10 or 15 days, probably twice a day also. And what I felt was that some of them were pretty good, but some of them were just mere lectures. I don't criticize them, but probably at this stage, I would feel that I would like to study a topic rather than just listen to what are the general views and general outlook of a law. And as Nilesh has already said it, what we all know about this topic is only one thing. Once a mortgage, always a mortgage. But when it comes to actually applying this principle of law, and especially in ticklish prepositions, believe me, it is very tough. You can burn the midnight oil and still it gets very confusing. So I just thought that since I had done a specific matter on this issue, something very interesting, RSA came to me, concurrent findings against me. And the first thing I read, I said, there's nothing in this matter, nothing is going to happen. Somehow that fellow, he was poor fellow, and he says, please look into it. I started reading, and when I started reading, I found that there was so much into it that there was no reason I should lose this case. And in Justice Deensa's court, it took me 5 minutes to get a notice of motion and a stay order in a matter which I was feeling is totally against me, and there's nothing in this in concurrent finding. So that's the reason I chose mortgage. Now I'll start with it. Mortgage, of course, it's a very wide topic, so we can't cover everything, but I'll cover something which is actually a problem for everyone. The moment you listen to any preposition, that's the problem which crops up, and that is what you need to know. So mortgage is, as you all know, is defined in section 58 of the Transfer of Property Act. If you have the act, you can open it. I'll just read it out to you. Just to give a few, just a little introduction about the terms itself. Now, what is a mortgage and mortgager, mortgagee and mortgage deed is what we actually need to know to understand the entire concept. Now, a mortgager is one who basically transfers his interest in the property, that is, he's the transferor, to a person who's known as transferee or mortgagee for a loan. So that is transferring his valuable right in the immovable property. That's all about basically the mortgage, that this is mortgage. So there are terms is mortgager, the one who transfers it, mortgagee, to the one to whom it is transferred, and mortgage deed, which is very important. That is the writing which is in between the two to describe as to what the mortgage is all about. Now, further in that section itself, in section 58, There are sub clauses which define the types of mortgage, that is simple mortgage, English mortgage, usufructory mortgage, mortgage by conditional sale, anomalous mortgage. There are so many of them. But in India, by and large, most of it we have is simple mortgage, mortgage by conditional sale, and usufructory mortgage. Today, I'll only touch two topics, that is mortgage by conditional sale and usufructory mortgage. Before that I start with it, there's another section 60 which we need to know. Is section 60 is rights of mortgager to redeem. So in the Transfer of Property Act itself, the rights are given as to mortgager, how he can redeem it and all that, when he can redeem it. And section 62 talks about rights of usufructory mortgager to recover the possession. As you all know, usufructory mortgage would mean giving over the possession of the mortgage property as well. So how he recovers it, section 62 specifies that. So as I just said that, and the Article 61 of Limitation Act prescribes the limitation for redemption, which we need to know. So I'll not touch anything beyond that, but in this itself, there's a lot to cover. So as we know that this maxim, once a mortgage, always a mortgage, how does it come and what does it imply is basically what we are here to discuss. Now, as far the usufructory mortgage is concerned, there was always a notion that there is a limitation of 30 years. Those 30 years were always calculated either from the date when the money was handed over or as prescribed in the mortgage deed. Presuming in the mortgage deed it is written that for 5 years he cannot redeem the mortgage. So it used to be considered that after 5 years, that period of 30 years would start. And ultimately, if he doesn't redeem within 35 years, then it is gone. He cannot redeem it. Now, by way of various judgment, the most substantial, the most important one of them is Shivaram, which is a full bench judgment of this Honorable High Court, upheld by the Honorable Supreme Court. It stated, no, that's not the way of calculating the limitation in a usufructory mortgage. It is a mortgage where the possession is handed over. The mortgagee is already reaping the benefits of that land or the property. He's getting the rent, or maybe he's taking the crop, and etc. etc. So there's a concurrent cause of action which is getting created. Every year there's a crop, he gets it, he's basically able to recover his money, the limitation gets extended. By virtue of this, ultimately, the courts held that in a usufructory mortgage, there is no limitation. That 30 years which we calculate from the day the amount becomes due, the principal amount becomes due, gets extended by virtue of this fact that the person is able to reap the benefit, is getting the crop. That's how this issue came in. Then once a mortgage, always a mortgage. And in a usufructory mortgage, there is no limitation. This law, I hope, is pretty clear to most of them. So I'm not going in too much of detail, except for the fact that I've already mentioned that the limitation, how it is to be calculated, and the very relevant judgment, Shivaram, which you can all read. It's very beautiful. And in fact, if you, in this Shivaram's judgment, if you read few paragraphs, that is paragraph number 13 and 14, it will clear out the entire concept as to what the honorable courts wanted to say, which discussing the law as early as 19th century, about 1895 in Santlay's case, to say once a mortgage, always a mortgage. Now, the ticklish part of this mortgage, this preposition, is when we discuss about mortgage by conditional sale. And then there's another aspect to it, is conditional sale with repurchase. Now, what is that? I'll tell you. I'll give you an example. A mortgage deed is executed by the mortgager in favor of mortgagee, saying that this land I am transferring to you for for 5 years. After 5 years, I can redeem it for a period of 2 years. Else, it will consider as sale. Now, this preposition in itself is very, very vague. We can construe it as to be mortgaged by conditional sale. We can also construe it as by conditional sale with repurchase. Now, where does our role as a lawyers come in over here? Is that what is I'm going to tell you. For a mortgagee, it is always beneficial to project it as conditional sale with repurchase. For the very simple reason, he'll say that this is as good as a sale deed, or it is a sale deed. There was a limitation that in 5 years he cannot redeem it. After 5 years, he has to redeem it within this certain period, that is 6 months, 1 year, 2 years. He has not redeemed it. It is automatically becomes a sale. There is nothing else required to be done. It automatically becomes this. On the contrary, if it is a mortgage by conditional sale, there the right of redemption would always remain, irrespective of the fact that by virtue of this contract, he had tried to limit his right to redeem, to say that after 5 years you could only redeem for 2 years is, the courts say, is totally illegal void. That is where we say once a mortgage, always a mortgage. So what is the difference between a mortgage by conditional sale and conditional sale with repurchase? For that, the courts have interpreted by way of various judgments to say that you will have to read the mortgage deed with lot of precision, and to consider each and every part of the mortgage deed, and also the intention to actually interpret whether it is a mortgage by conditional sale or a conditional sale with repurchase. I'll give you an example. A person says that this property is transferred to you for 5 years. In 2 years, if I redeem it, then it's fine, else it becomes a sale. Now, there are two aspects to it. One, there can be the same deed which says only the plain language what I have said. The court construes it that here it's a case where it does not discuss any debtor-creditor relationship. It does not say for what purpose the money was given, nothing at all. It only says that I have obtained this money, I have given you this land, I'll be able to get it back after 5 years within a period of 2 years, and hence it gets finished. There the court says it must be construed as a conditional sale with repurchase. I reiterate, there is no creditor-debtor relationship in it, and thus once the person has failed to prepay that amount which is mentioned in the deed within the time period stipulated, and he does not take it back, his right is gone. On the contrary, the same deed, if we say it has, it specifies that I am mortgaging this land to this mortgagee, I need this money for certain purpose, and after 5 years I shall redeem it back within 2 years, and it specifies a lot of things for the mortgage to say that okay, he'll retain the possession but he'll not get any rights. There the court says this deed is very clear to state that there is a debtor and creditor relationship, and therefore it has to be construed as a mortgage by conditional sale. Now it is just not about, as I specified earlier, just the language of deed, but it has to also be seen as to what all other contents of are there in this deed to construe it either of them. Now, certain parameters, the most important parameters which have been laid down, I can just read it out to you. I'll explain it. One is the language of the deed, which I have already told you. The second is the intention. In one of the cases, it was stated that after 5 years, you can get the patanama transferred in your name. You can sell it, you can lease it, you can do anything about it. There, the mortgagee says, no, it was a conditional sale with repurchase, while the mortgager said it was mortgage by conditional sale. Then the court says, no, you must see the intention. The mortgager, if it is so, had the intention to transfer the entire rights to him regarding that land to the mortgagee, and therefore it has to be construed as conditional sale with repurchase. It can't be mortgage by conditional sale. Then third most important aspect is consideration. Now in a mortgage with conditional sale, it may or may not be necessary that what is the amount paid. Presuming a land is worth crore of rupees, a person may have borrowed merely 10 lakhs. Now, where the lawyers step in is, if presuming there is any suit filed by the mortgagee to say that it is a conditional sale with repurchase, it is there that the mortgager must plead that no, it is a mortgage by conditional sale, which is evident from the fact that the value of the land is 1 crore. There was no question of selling it for 10 lakhs. I had taken this amount merely as a mortgage money, and I have the right to redemption. If you are able to plead and prove this aspect, that the consideration obtained is not sufficient to conclude it as a sale, it automatically is proved to be a mortgage by conditional sale. There is another aspect over there. Generally, not necessarily. In a conditional sale with repurchase, there can be two documents as well. One would be a mortgage deed, the other would be an agreement for repurchase. If there are two documents, it is definite to conclude that it is a conditional sale with repurchase. one, it does not automatically mean it is mortgaged by conditional sale. So I have two documents, then it has to be concluded a conditional sale with repurchase. Now, what is the further difference between the two and why there is so relative importance of the two? I'll explain you that. Conditional sale with repurchase, as I said, has no right of redemption beyond the period mentioned in the deed itself. Once that period is gone, it is a full-fledged sale, a concluded sale, with the mortgager having no right to get it back. But in mortgage by conditional sale, the right of redemption always remains. Now, here is the next term which comes into play, which is part of a topic as a clog on equity of redemption, which correlates to once a mortgage, always a mortgage. Now, as I've already said earlier, also we've always said once a mortgage, always a mortgage would automatically mean there can be no clog on equity of redemption. To say that 5 years you could not redeem, thereafter you could have redeemed it only in 2 years, and beyond that the period goes, is a clog on equity of redemption. The court says you cannot put this clog on equity of redemption, which is against the statute itself. The courts are very, very clear to say that even by virtue of contract, you cannot waive off that right. You cannot, that equity of redemption would always remain. We all know that the fact is that the mortgager has always been in a bad position, we could say, and the mortgagee is in a superior position to dictate its terms. So the courts are pretty conscious about this fact that at the time these contracts are written or these deeds are written, the mortgagee is able to dictate his or her own terms. So that is the time they interpreted it that any contract, whatsoever it may be, cannot go against the statute. Once a limitation is prescribed for redemption of mortgage, there can be nothing as clog on equity of redemption of mortgage. I'll give you another example. There is a mortgage which is created, says that for 85 years you cannot redeem this mortgage. After 85 years, you can redeem this mortgage within 6 months, failing which it will be sale. Now, it is a mortgage with conditional sale, but again, it puts a clog on equity of redemption. Now, the judgment over here, when the court was discussing it, it says that it is very, very clear that the mortgagee misused his position to basically draw such a deed, getting the rights for 85 years and putting a clog on the equity of redemption. You have stopped the mortgager from his right to avail the remedy of redemption for a period of 85 years, which is totally illegal and against law, and we cannot sustain it. The courts interfere in it to say that you could not have put any clog on the equity of redemption and it has to go. So that's how the difference between mortgage by conditional sale and conditional sale with repurchase was interpreted by different courts in different cases. There is in fact a judgment, I have already told Mr. Nilesh to pass it on to you. There is a judgment of Tamboli Ramanlal versus Ghanchi Chimanlal. That is, I've already given the citation to him,
Vishalji,
which is
just for a second, I am breaking you in between. All the judgments I have posted in the chat. Anybody who
okay.
wants to see the provisions of Transfer of Property Act or judgments can just click on that. They will be able to download the file and then they can see those judgments. Thank you.
I'll just rush through these judgments. They are very, very detailed. One judgment takes actually a lot of time to read each and every judgment, but I'll just tell you some very important one. This Tamboli Ramanlal, which I was saying, is the courts have very beautifully discussed and distinguished between a mortgage by conditional sale and conditional sale with right to repurchase, where they have distinguished as to where it has to be constituted as mortgage by conditional sale or conditional sale with right to repurchase. And it clearly states that the right to redemption would always remain with the mortgager, which cannot be clogged. There can be no clog on equity of redemption. And then, of course, you must read that Ramkishan vs. Shivaram, which is a full bench judgment on usufructory mortgage, because it does not talk only about usufructory mortgage, but it also talks about the same maxim, once a mortgage, always a mortgage, and why it is so and how it was interpreted beginning from Sandley's case of 1895. Then there's a case of Gangadhar versus Shankarlal, which reiterates the aspects. The 1958 judgment says that any contract limiting the right of redemption is absolutely void. You cannot do that. And then there's a very beautiful judgment of Philomena Joes versus Federal Bank. That's of 2006. It goes a step further. Before I discuss the judgment, I'll just tell you something more also. Order 34 CPC gives you the right and prescribes the way out of redemption, foreclosure, everything. There it is given that how the foreclosure has to take place if the mortgagee wants to go for it, and how the redemption has to take place if the mortgager goes to it. So the entire rights are specified in Order 34. Now, Order 34 is someone where the mortgagee can file a suit for foreclosure saying, I want to foreclose this. That gives a sufficient opportunity to the mortgager to repay the money. If he fails to repay the money, a preliminary decree is drawn. Again, he gets opportunity to pay. He does not pay, a final decree is drawn. A final decree is drawn, and then the property is put to sale. There is also a provision limiting his right to redeem as well. However, this judgment which I was talking about, this Philomena Joes versus Federal Bank, by and large says that even till the last drop, the mortgager has the right to redeem. Even before the sale is confirmed, he is well within his right to pay that money and get his land back. So his land back. So we can well imagine that the courts are pretty conscious of the fact that the mortgager is always in an adverse position and the law must favor him. At the same time, there is provision for foreclosure also in Order 34, which says that how it is to be foreclosed, because it is not that all the rights are available only to the mortgager. The mortgagee also has its rights. There may be circumstances where there may be a simple mortgage, or where there may be a usufructory mortgage also. He has a land with him. The mortgager is not redeeming it. The mortgagee is not able to drive sufficient benefits out of it. He cannot, of course, sell it also. What to do? That is the time he can file a suit for foreclosure. He can file a suit for recovery, either of them. So that remedy is entirely given in Order 34 and has to be followed. Mere contractual terms and conditions cannot be used to bypass this method. Without limiting the right of a mortgager or mortgagee, you cannot foreclose it, you cannot redeem it. That's the most important aspect of it. Because most of the cases which we get over here is that, see, this is the mortgage deed, these are the terms and conditions. As per these terms and conditions, this time period has elapsed, so and so has lost his right, be it mortgager to redeem or be it mortgagee to foreclose, and thus this right becomes absolute. It is not so. As I've already said, in Gangadhar's case, it was said any contract limiting right of redemption is void. Any contract against the statute is void. It cannot be done. It has to be followed. There's so much so in Order 34 Rule 8 subclause 3, it clearly states that you can limit the right of redemption of the mortgager. But the courts went on to say, unless a specific decree is passed in terms of Order 34 Rule 8, you cannot limit the right of redemption. If that decree is not passed, the mortgager would always have a right to redeem his land, his property at any point of time, subject to law of limitation, subject to the type of mortgage it is. So what I intend to say over here is that when it's a mortgage by conditional sale, the rights of the mortgager are quite extensive, not bound by any limitation as may be prescribed in their contract or mortgage deed. It has to go as per statute, as per Order 34. There can be no clog on equity of redemption. The mortgagee cannot incorporate any such right or even enforce by merely contractual terms and conditions to state that mortgager shall have no right to redeem. So the maxim, once a mortgage, always a mortgage, comes from here. So whenever a case comes, we must see that if we are for the mortgager, as to what would be the ingredients of the mortgage deed, whether they would effectively constitute mortgage with conditional sale, what steps the mortgagee has taken to actually limit the rights of mortgager, the steps taken are sufficient to limit those rights or not. And if it is not, then Order 34 is the Bible of this topic, which guides you and takes you through as to how this entire procedure has to be followed. Even the smallest of lacuna can render the entire proceedings of mortgagee bad. There is Section 8 of Bengal redemption also, where the mortgagee can file a suit to say that I want to foreclose. Now, in one of the judgments of this honorable court, I can pass it over also, that the court held that even the mortgagee could not prove the service of notice upon the mortgager that he wants to foreclose this. Having said so, he says the entire proceedings are vitiated. The land has to return back. The documents have to return back to the mortgager, and there can be no that the equity of redemption would remain in favor of mortgagers. So that's basically about this topic. I think we are open to questions thereafter. Lesh, we can't hear you. Lesh, we can't hear you.
Nilesh, you need to unmute yourself.
Now you can hear me.
Yes, yes.
Now everybody is able to hear me. Now anybody who wants
Yes.
to ask a question, he can raise his hand like this. I will just unmute him and he can directly ask question to Vishalji, or he can post his question so that we can ask the question to Vishalji.
If you want me to repeat something, I can do that.
Where from we get that files?
What do you get?
Files and judgments which you have quoted.
Just a second.
Judgments.
Now,
That we'll be sending you the email.
since
Okay.
So I think Shivram is not there in that. I couldn't see it.
yes, Shivram's citation was wrong, so I was not able to find that. Other
Why it is 2008 volume 1 R? You must be looking at the Supreme Court. I did not do that because the law by the our High Court has been better discussed, and we can read that actually.
okay,
It's
okay.
written by it's very beautifully written. You must be seeing a Supreme Court of
Yes.
High Court. It is 2008 volume 1 RCR Civil 334.
2008.
You can
Can you
write the
repeat
docket. You can write the docket ID also.
Yeah,
135.
please.
Docket ID is 135463.
Shivram ki?
This was
2008.
Vishalji, I was not
Ramkishan
able to
versus
find-
Shivram.
I was not able to find Shivram on this docket ID. There was some Allahabad
No.
docket ID. So
It is. I think it
better
is.
to find out
I'm sorry. It is 135963. 135963.
963.
Okay, okay. And 2008 one RCR.
334.
Civil 334.
Okay. In this judgment, can we can go through all the things which you have dictated?
It is basically on the issue of once a mortgage and always a mortgage, and the issue of redemption, which actually is
Okay.
discussed. The issue of clog on equity of redemption is not discussed in this. For clog on equity of redemption, you can read this judgment. There's another. I can get 763572.
76.
What's the name of the parties?
76.
In which one? I'm sorry. Read. Yes, you read. Our High Court is very clear on this. 814683.
81.
81.
4683.
83. Okay.
Yes, it
And
refers to Gangadhar's judgment also and Shivdev Singh judgment also, which discuss everything in detail. And there is another Supreme Court also. I'll just write that also. 19374.
That is part of the message I have sent. The file I have sent.
I have
Actually,
written
the thing is,
that-
whoever is on the
When we talk about conditional sale with repurchase, with a clause to
Yes.
repurchase,
Yes.
what's the difference between first right to refusal and a conditional sale with the right to repurchase?
First right to refusal. How is it relevant?
Refusal. taken place, I have first right to repurchase it.
No, you of course have. That right is very much there. It says, presuming it says for 5 years you cannot redeem. For 2 years you can repay and get that land back. Now that right is limited to that limitation mentioned in the deed itself. So you avail it or
Yeah,
you
that,
don't
that
avail it.
differ
There's
from
no right
deed to
of
deed. That's a condition of deed. That differ from deed to
that's a
deed.
condition. That's condition of deed, but applicable only when it is when it is conditional sale with repurchase. This may not be valid for mortgage by conditional sale. There's a difference in that.
Mhm.
The right is limited by that, but for because as I said earlier was that where it is conditional sale with right to repurchase, there is no right of redemption. So therefore, there's nothing against the statute. Whatever you have written in your contract is binding upon you. But when it is mortgage by conditional sale, the right of redemption would be available to it, which cannot be limited by any deed, any terms and conditions of the deed.
Any other question? I think Vishalji, there is no other question. Since it is a informal webinar, so anybody who wants to just give his own inputs on the topic, he is also welcome to give his input. He has to just tell us that I want to give input on this issue, and then I can just unmute him and he can give his own suggestions on the topic. Is
I
there?
think everybody is unmuted only. I think everybody is unmuted only, Nilesh.
I have unmuted everybody right now. Then if nobody,
Vishalji, how this topic of mortgage, matlab jaisa, like I don't practice that much on civil side. How much is this relevant or how much is this being used in daily, matlab in daily routine? Or the case number of cases जो इसमें है, जो number of cases इसमें आपके पास आते हैं RSA के, और जितने आप, because you do RSA primarily, and how many cases do you find on mortgage issue on that?
Quite a lot. In fact, there has been of late a lot of issues. Earlier what it used to be that blank papers used to be signed by the mortgagors, and then it used to be converted into an agreement to sell and all those things. That time has gone. Now no one signs blank papers. Now what a mortgagee does, as I said, is that he tries to draft the deed in such a manner that it is projected as conditional sale with repurchase. While it is always a mortgage with conditional sale, that is what the mortgager wants. So that these types of disputes do arise and regularly arise, wherein they say, "See जी मैं तो सिर्फ mortgage ਕੀਤੀ ਸੀਗੀ, ਇਹਨੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਨਾਂ transfer कर ली और ਇਹ लिखा ਸੀगा कि जी 2 साल च तुसी ना redeem कराई ते खत्म." Now the first knee jerk reaction to such is कि यार contract में लिखा है, तुमने sign किया तो ठीक ही होगा. What is wrong in it? You have not done it. You've not done it. That is generally what is happening, and these types of prepositions do arise. In fact, most of the times people do give such advice ki nothing can be done, even though again I'm saying that the maxim, once a mortgage always a mortgage, but people say when it is contractual you've signed it, end of it. That happens. So that is how this topic is very relevant, because these things do happen, and unfortunately, if what conditions are prevailing today, you may see number of such cases rising, because the need of money would definitely increase, and such things might increase as well.
और ये mortgage जो deed होती है, does it require registration and all?
Yes,
what is
yes. It requires registration. It requires registration, definitely.
Unregistered mortgage deed is of no use.
Generally not. The courts do not want to rely upon it. How to enforce a right? How to enforce a right? Suppose it is, someone wants to generally it's the mortgagee who wants to, 90% of the time it's the mortgagee who wants to hoodwink. How do you enforce a deed which is not even registered? Today, even an agreement to sell which is not registered, it's getting difficult to enforce that. If you people would have read that law, that taking off this agreement to sell, if it's not registered, the courts are impounding it. You can impound the agreement to sell if it is not registered, and even impose penalty. So that is what is happening. Mortgage deed has to be registered. A mortgagee is generally aware of this, and they do get it registered.
Param, I am asking you. Param has asked a question.
Paramji, the contents of mortgage deed are of utmost importance. As I told you that I had given you an example also, that if there is no question of the first and foremost test is that in a mortgage by conditional sale, there has to be a relation of debtor and creditor. If that is not specified, if it fails the first test, probably it will be very difficult to wade through the others. It will be considered as conditional sale by repurchase. But then that is not the only criteria. The intention, the consideration, everything needs to be seen as to whether it would qualify to be called as mortgage by conditional sale or not. I've given you a judgment where they've discussed this also, and that Tamboli Raman Lal, must read that. It will give you the difference between a mortgage by conditional sale and conditional sale with right to repurchase.
Sir,
So
and the
there,
second part to my question is that supposingly if there is a clause in the mortgage deed
Hmm,
which is inconsistent with any with the main provision of the act,
yes,
but it is in relation, or it goes with a state law, let's say
yes, yes,
state law, which, and I'm indirectly trying to tell you that when a state law is in contradiction to the main act, sir, in that scenario, which law shall prevail? Will the special law prevail, or the general law, that is the TPA or the provisions of 58, will apply?
see, Param, there's a lot of debate on this after the Panjakshi judgment. There's a lot of debate on this issue. If you've read the Panjakshi judgment on section 100, now the earlier law, which was a very settled law, was law of repugnancy, where it says the central laws would always prevail upon the state laws. That was a very clear situation. Now, after this Panjakshi's judgment, which has come by the Honorable Supreme Court, larger bent on section 100, it says a special law would prevail upon general law. That is what they say. That if a general law specifies, like in section 100 RSA, we only have is in that only it will be entered in on substantial question of law itself. But the Punjab Courts Act section 41 says that it shall be entertained on issue of fact as well. Now there was a lot of debate on this, that issue which was discussed. Ultimately, the Honorable Supreme Court has said that special law would prevail. Punjab Courts Act is a special law. CPC, they say, is a general law. So therefore, the special law would prevail on this. That is what they say. But in this particular case, in mortgage at least, now as I told you, there is a Bengal Redemption Act as well, which is applicable here in Punjab as well. Section 7 and 8 is also applicable. CPC in itself, Order 34, is very, very specific on mortgage. It cannot be construed as general law. It is a specific special law, I would say, that in terms of mortgage dealing with this, giving all provisions very specifically. And the judgments are also saying that Order 34 is the Bible for mortgage, which has to be followed in proper format. That is how it goes.
Sir, but then what is your take on the fact that this might just be in contradiction to Article 254, which says that when a parliament makes, a central government makes a law, and if a state government comes up with a law that is in contradiction to it, so in that scenario, will this hold good? Will this pass the test of, say, Article 254?
See, then ultimately it is the courts to interpret which is the general law and which is the specific law, special law. Because as per the latest judgment, it says special law would prevail. We do not have a choice to say that this law is better, this law is bad. We would only go on judge made law. And as I just reiterate, the latest judgment is special laws over general laws, which is against the law of repugnancy. The law of repugnancy is very, very clear on this issue. I am very surprised to read this judgment. And if you read this judgment, every time you read that judgment, there's something new which comes up. I have 100 questions to myself. Instead of being answered, I have so many questions to ask to myself also, that how is this possible? But that's what the court says, that ultimately that special law would prevail upon the general law. Now it is upon the court. If a situation comes where both the prepositions are there, suppose someone files a suit for redemption under section 8 of the Bengal Redemption Act, right? But he's not followed order 34. That situation, I could not find a judgment where that has come and the courts have construed or have held that that law, as being a special law, ought to have prevailed upon Order 34. On the contrary, there's a judgment of our Honorable High Court by Honorable Justice S.K. Mittal to say that no, Order 34 is more important. It lays down a specific procedure, a detailed procedure to say that it must be followed. That act, entire act was repealed, only section 7 and 8 were retained. So they say nothing doing. This lays down the correct law and the entire law. In fact, if you would have heard some webinars also, there was a discussion on this issue of AICTE Act and the special acts also.
Special act.
For this.
Yes.
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 So over there,
Mr. Singh.
Mr. Maninder Singh. So he
Yes.
ultimately says that Supreme Court has held that AICTE is pretty general. It's a general law which does not discuss only one person from the pharmacy would be there. So that would not make that, those laws would prevail. So it is actually circumstantial. Every case would have to be construed and interpreted on its own facts and circumstances.
Any other question, guys?
I think we can wrap it up, Nilesh.
So since there is no, there is one question from Asim ji. I will unmute you, Asim ji. You can ask your question.
No, thank you. Question, I was just adding to the discussion because the Punjab Courts Act, I believe, is, I mean, my friend Param's question was repugnancy in the central law and the state law. And I think Punjab Courts Act is not a state law. It is also deemed to be a central law since it was made by the Governor General in 1914.
That's
so therefore it can override the CPC. But if there is a repugnancy between central and state, obviously central will prevail.
But then it
So
was
that's
held that
very-
it was that this some provisions of this act were retained after independence also. So when most of it was repealed,
to
this
the
was
extent that
retained.
it doesn't get eclipsed by the
Yes.
new constitution, that eclipsing
Constitution.
that theory is always
Yes.
there.
Yes. So that on that, some provisions were retained. So it held that since these provisions
So
were
Courts
retained,
Act Section
it-
41
it-
applies.
yes, it being a
Applies,
special
yes.
law, and then this High Court wanting to incorporate this procedure, they could not do it because there was another question which even I had posed was that we may see that this act, this Punjab Courts Act, is contrary to CPC. We say, but what about the amendments by state specific amendments to the provisions which are incorporated in CPC itself? It's almost one and the same thing. If there's not a special act, there's a special amendment by the state. If that is valid, this is also valid. Right? Like section 60CCC is there. That is an amendment by the Punjab.
Subsection 1.
Subsection 1, CCC. So it says that
1
one residential house is exempted. Now
Not better.
that is something contrary to section 60 itself. But that's a state
That gets
amendment which
overridden
is
by the Motor Vehicle Act under the
yes.
Recovery of Revenue Act, which when you go to attach the property, this is 61CCC doesn't apply. But now there's a latest judgment. It says no, it applies because the states have adopted CPC, not Motor Vehicle Act.
Yes. So once the states have made an amendment, it has been accepted. Then why should not the special law also be adopted? But then it is again case specific, discussing the provisions, how much applicable they are, and all that is what it seems. What it has to be. That jhagada goes on.
Any other question, guys?
Karan, you want to ask something?
Wait for a second. I will unmute you. Karan, I will unmute you. Yeah, come. Now you can ask, Karan.
It's a slightly different scenario in courts. You are open to interrupt without being bothered by muted by somebody. I think there should be a mechanism where a lawyer can be muted in court also. Just to add to the debate of repugnancy of center and state laws, what Param also said and what Asim also said, one thing which we must consider is that land revenue, land laws are largely a state subject. So while we discuss repugnancy and conflict between center and state laws, we must also see that the act which has been formulated by a state is in state list or union list or concurrent list. The repugnancy would also be determined in the light of that aspect as well. What Param was referring to section 254, there are instances wherein many states were having a delayed response to zamindari abolition laws because it was their prerogative at first instance to begin with. So land revenue, all these things, land laws are largely within the purview of state list. For this was one aspect, and then we were also referring to this one thing which I forgot. If there is a dispute, the dispute would largely the CPC and its orders. If we see the way the central legislation CPC has been formulated, the sections are a domain of legislature, a parliament, whereas orders and rules are exclusively within the domain of High Court of each state. We can have amendment in any order and rule if the High Court so desires under Letters Patents Act. So rules largely depends on that. We can, to bring conformity, a state and a High Court can have a rule with their particular state specific requirements.
But that amendment which we're discussing, Karan, is in section 60, not an order. That
No,
amendment
referring to Order 34 we were referring.
No, that is right. Otherwise, I was talking about that the amendment, that state amendment is in section 60, which has been by the Punjab, which in fact we make most of it in the courts over here.
Because it's a state subject, yes. Right.
State subject, yes.
Any other question? Anybody wants to give his feedback or anything else? Then I will.
I will unmute everyone if anyone wants to.
There is in there wants to ask something. Yes.
कुछ पूछना नहीं था, एक बार सबको unmute कर दे so that we can thank Vishal to start with and then you also. Because see, it's an initiative. It is always good to take an initiative. Good to be on the receiving end and hard to be on the receiving end of all the galiyan. Whatever happens, it is if something goes good, then it is a collective effort. If something goes bad,
then it's
the one who started it.
Speaker. True. Believe me, it was a sleepless night for me yesterday. I slept at 2, even in this Vela time when we have nothing to do, and I got up at 5:30 again to read and read. Because mortgage, believe me, the more you read, the more you get crazy. It took me a lot of time to understand. Whenever I read, there's something new crops up, and you really need. What I've given you is totally the gist without any confusion. The more you read, you'll have more questions coming in fact.
See who has joined us just now.
Papa.
So I'm going to unmute.
Recording off करियो भाई, पर recording off करियो नीलेश. Recording off करियो.
Just a second. I'm.
Can speak with that fluency. And I would also thank Asim, who took pains to be part of us. Param Seni, who recently got married and still could gather a courage to be a part of webinar. Must be having a lot of webinars at his home. I remember Param from my AIL days. We worked together, and is a bright, enterprising lawyer. Kohli for taking over the job of thanking everybody, because it was my job to thank.
Not informed.
Rightly not informed. Thank you very much for this very enlightening session. It was great to have you all. Thank you very much. Thank you, Nilesh, for doing so much effort.
Karan, just a line, just a sentence about your tomorrow's topic also. Just a brief.
What time?
Same time.
Same
I'll be
password. Just the speaker will change tomorrow.
If you could change the password, better.
Are we recording it?
Yes.
No. Nilesh, if you could change the password, it will be wonderful. The password is not too good.
I'll try to do that, but there are certain technical issues with regard to that.
Nilesh, can you tell me what will be the next topic tomorrow?
Yeah,
Karan is going to tell about that only. Karan,
just a second.
Thank you. The topic for tomorrow, friends, recently while sitting in lockdown, you do have two things to do. Check at the website of High Court and of Supreme Court. I came across a judgment by Supreme Court on sexual harassment recently, authored by Justice Khanwalkar. It emphasizes on the need of the requirements and liabilities of employer from the perspective of sexual harassment laws. So I'll be touching that tomorrow.
Okay.
Great. That will be great.
Thank you.
DKG, time to end the meeting, I think.
Time to end. Guys, everybody, I hope that everybody will join us